Welcome to Traveling Down Biblical Archaeology for the 21st Century. I'm Gary Byers, Dr. Stephen Collins, and we excavate at Tell el Hamnam in the eastern Jordan Valley in the country of Jordan. And we spent 16 years in the field working on that. And today we're actually in our lab and we're working with the pottery that came from there these days. And we're going to show you some stuff that's really interesting to us. In fact, Dr. C, you have a favorite all-time vessel from all of our excavations. You and I we've probably dug in 6 or 8 different sites over the years. And of course, we spent all those years first at Kirbet El Makadar together, and then now at Tell el Hamnam. But we both love a particular vessel.
And not because it's beautiful.
It is not.
It is homely with a capital H.
Yep.
But it's beautiful in its own way. Reminds me of that old song. Yes. Everybody's beautiful in their own way.
Yep.
Well, here they are. These are called cooking pots.
Yeah.
But they don't look like, to me, it's not a pot.
Yeah.
Pots to me are kind of globular or kind of ovoid. They're kind of curvy. These only have a curve going one way, like this. They are flat on the bottom. They are squarish in their overall shape. If you're looking straight on to them, they're just like that. And they're just like a cylinder. And they have some decoration on them. Why they have decoration on them? It's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, I guess. They're not pretty to begin with, and putting the little decoration on them is not help.
No.
But the decoration is almost always there. Now, what in the world do they do with these? So let's introduce them. Now, we have the fortunate experience at Sodom to be able to have many of these vessels that are nearly reconstructable. And we have one set that we've got around us today. It's kind of a mama pot and a baby pot and
a papa pot.
Papa pot.
Papa pot.
And by the way, we know everybody knows these vessels. Not too many people get to see them like we see them, and so many versions of them, dozens of different versions. But you're going to see just how homely they are. So why do we like them?
Why do we?
This is the era of the fast potter's wheel, where they can make absolutely beautiful pottery and wonderful shapes with this technology of the fast wheel. And so why is it that during the same era where almost everything is fast wheeled, thrown on the potter's wheel, did they have a style of vessel for use in the kitchen which are completely handmade, crude, and almost never, in fact, I don't think I've ever seen one intact. So what are these things? What is the special dish or the special preparation that requires you to actually make one of these vessels? Now, in my gut, I think these things are not coming from the local pottery manufacturing company.
I think not.
They're not being produced in any kind of a formal potter's factory.
I agree.
These things are being made by the cooks.
Or their kids.
And they're poorly fired, sometimes so poorly fired that you could just easily snap them in half or snap a piece of it in half. It's just poorly fired. And what do they do with them? Now, this is where spectrographic analysis would really be helpful. What in the world are they cooking in these pots?
We will do it.
But they're special because they're like snowflakes.
Yes.
They're like fingerprints.
Everyone's different.
Every single one of them has its own unique personality. They're completely different than every other one.
And that would indicate that it's being made not in that potter's workshop, but at each house.
Right.
And probably the one I made last month is not going to be exactly like the one I made this month.
And the one you made last month probably lasted for only one or two meals. These things are so crumby, C-R-U-M-B, crumbs. I mean, they just fall apart. They're not going to last very long. So it's for something that is, it has to be something traditional, something that requires this. By the way, it's not like this is a kind of vessel my great-great-great-great-grandmother cooked in, because these vessels don't exist in the previous period.
Yeah.
These vessels come into existence during the Middle Bronze Age, the time of the fast potter's wheel. So this is some kind of very special kind of traditional pot that was introduced for the purpose of cooking a special casserole. We always call them casseroles, and they look more like they look casserole-y to me, like there's going to be layers of stuff in them, and they're going to be. This is not a good. I would not put soup in one of these. No. I would not load this thing up with liquid, because it's just going to fall apart. This is being made to contain something, but it's going to be to cook whatever's in there in a special way.
Yep, I think so.
So let's introduce our little ugly vessels.
So this one that I'm holding in my hands, give you a sense. We have the base of it. Well, let me just tell you the story. So my wife and I were excavating at Tell el Hamnam, and we had dug a trench, and now we were moving it. And as she's moving the edge of the trench, she sees this vessel right here with the base intact, and she uncovers the whole face of it, and we dug into it and saw the base, and so it was complete. Now, this is not the way the vessel stands. It stands like this. You can see from this side, there's the base, and you can see how crumbly it is, but there's what's left of the base. We have pieces. Dr. C recommended that when we're done with this, and we probably have done about all we can do, we'll make a modern base out of the clay material we've got. And he said we'll just insert all those chunks so you get a feel for what it was like. But we found it complete. But as we took it out, 3,700 years later, it just disintegrated on us. But this was the vessel sitting like this. That's not where it's supposed to be, of course. And it was sitting in a bunch of dirt, just like this, above the floor. What you said? You said maybe 2 feet?
No, about 40 centimeters. So, what is that, a foot?
Yeah, a foot plus. So it was sitting not on the floor, but just like this. And so we excavated it, and I said, "Hey, Steve, come here, look at this." And so he looked at it, he said, "I've never seen it like that. I've never seen one of those whole like that." And of course, it crumbled when we pulled it out, but it was whole at the moment. But there was
whole, but gazillions of cracks.
Yeah,
it was being held together by the matrix around it.
Yeah, but it was all there.
Yeah,
it was all there. So it's sitting there, and I said. So we talked about it, and then as he walked away, I said, "Steve, you see this white vertical line?" And it was about a foot away from the vessel. This white vertical line in the debris. And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "I've never seen that. What is it?" And he said, "Well, that's lime plaster on the mud brick wall. And I've seen a lot of mud plaster. I'd never seen lime plaster in an ancient excavation. So I go, okay, yeah. So then, my old brain's really working, Dr. C. I see the lime plaster here, my vessel's here, so then I said, okay, the wall must be on that side of the lime plaster because my vessel's on, it must be over there. And Gail scraped along and there was all the mud bricks were there. It was just an amazing experience to find this one. But as you can see, with the base right here, this is a very small one. This is teeny. This is the baby casserole, straight-sided cooking vessel that we found that day, and
we've always called it the flying casserole.
Yeah,
because it was found a foot or more above the floor, against this plaster wall face, and was therefore airborne.
Yeah,
it had to be airborne at one point in its life before it hit the wall.
Yeah.
So anyway, we always called it the flying casserole.
So that was the baby size, and then we get what Dr. C referred to as the mama size. Now we've got the base. We got the base over there in pieces, and we have not yet been able to assemble much. And I don't know that we'll be able to get much together. But we'll do our best to put this one together. But this is much larger. I guess maybe you hold that one a second,
yep.
And then we'll just compare the two. And
it's heavy too.
It is.
My goodness.
But we've got the base on the other side. So this also came out of the kitchen from the palace. Mm-hmm. So we've clearly got two sizes. Now, we never really recognized that before. That was not something that was really very obvious to us. But this is much, not nearly as wide. As you can turn it sideways there and see how this one can just about fit inside of it. And then this is much deeper.
Well, let's talk about the pie crust decoration.
Yeah.
Now, these almost invariably have a pie crust decoration. The one on the small one is actually the top of the vessel wall that just turns out.
Yes.
This one is actually an applique that you have a finished rim, but this is applied as an applique with thumb pinches or finger pinches in it, kind of a rope decoration just below the rim.
Yeah. Almost every vessel, almost every one of these vessels has that. In fact, virtually everyone does. But it's going to go much deeper. So this is that same recipe, the same vessel for the same kind of recipe. We just don't know what it is. Well, this was big. This was one of the bigger ones we've ever seen. I'm sure other excavations have them this large. You can see the evidence of the fire on the outside, and I guess I should show you so you get a sense of what it looks like on the edges. So that when it's dark on the edges like that, that means it's very poorly fired. It was not fired in a kiln, if at all.
See how gray, the dark gray. Carbon hasn't been fired out of it, so it was barely fired.
And maybe never even fired before the first meal, maybe, or fired once so it would hold together. We don't know. Well, that was big. Both of them coming from the kitchen of the palace at Tell el Hamnam. But then we found the granddaddy. So we'll get Daniel to take a special photo of this so you can get a little better view maybe. But this is the father of them all. It'll be fun to compare our big vessel with our colleagues' big vessels. But this one's got a rim diameter of, you measured just a little bit ago, 12 inches.
Full 12 inches.
Full 12 inches. We actually have the base. We didn't measure that, did we? That's about 8 or 10 inches.
Yeah, so it's probably more like 13 inches at the base or maybe a little more.
Yeah. So this is a massive vessel. See if I can turn it around without dropping it. We are just putting it together. You want to explain our yellow tape? Was that your idea, this yellow tape?
No, I think it was Irwin's.
Irwin, our restorer par excellence.
This tape is really sticky and it's really strong. So it allows you, we use it, it's yellow because you can see it visibly easily, and but it's very strong. So we use it to attach pieces to other pieces that go together without gluing them. So when we see tape, we're not glued. Or at least if it says not glued, that's what it means.
Yeah, yes. Sometimes you're right, glued, but it's still holding it all together.
Because we may still find a piece that fits in the middle between, so we're still picking through piles of sherds trying to find the pieces of this one. But this came from your kitchen that you excavated in 2023.
Yeah, very, very, very exciting stuff. And it was whole again. It was all together when we found it. And we have crumbled pieces of the base. And we'll have, I think we can probably fill in all the top as well. It's very, very exciting. And archaeology is, you love to dig and find stuff. But then to put it together, there's a special joy that you get. And if you love puzzles, this is the kind of work to do. You know, if you ever got some free time, you want to come to Albuquerque for the Balloon Fiesta, we'd be glad to have you come and join us here in our lab. And you can just help us put the vessels together to make your heart content. There will be for years to come, I believe.
Yeah.
Plenty of
many
vessels
years
to
of
be
work ahead.
restored. It's just an exciting thing. So this is food in the ancient world.
Yep.
Food at Tell el Hamnam. These three relate, and the other one from last time. These all relate to the cooking, the meals in the king's palace. This is the world of the ancient King Bera of the city of Sodom in the Bible. And archaeologists have the privilege of digging this kind of stuff up, reconstructing their world, what it was like, and of course we compare it to our world. I hope you get the chance to go to the Holy Land and see this kind of stuff. I hope you get the chance to go to an excavation. And by the way, I didn't mean it this way, but this is Associates for Biblical Research sponsoring the excavation at Shiloh, and I leave next week to go there. So this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we love, and we hope you enjoy it. We hope you get your chance to experience it and play with it in a whole nother level yourself. Dr. C, anything else you want to say before we wrap this episode up?
Well, you can see the impressions of the fingers and the thumbs as they made this thing. They're just pushing it in and I don't even think this is coiled. They're just mashing it out and mashing it up. And what's really cool, so when I put my fingerprint here, my thumb here, I'm actually putting it in the place where somebody's ancient thumb was when they made this pot. And that's a real human connection. Yeah. So we're real, so objects like this are little time machines that just project you back into to a particular moment in antiquity where someone makes something, and I can put my hands exactly where their hands were. To me, that's really special. It closes the gap in the distance and makes those people real.
This vessel doesn't show fingerprints, but a lot of those that are much smoother, you can actually see the fingerprints. And as we were working last week, our students were pointing out, there's a fingerprint, there's a fingerprint, and it's just, they were real people in the Bible world like us. Same challenges, same struggles, and they all like to eat like us.
Like us.
Well, thanks for joining us today. I hope you have a great day and a great next meal. See you next time.